Huzzah. There we go. Mute. Okay, and then I can grab this boy. Pop it up there. Bam. And now I can see the chat. Yeah, I'm doing it. Okay. I can't make that part go away. So, I think I'm good. Shoot. Yeah, so I need my monitor a little bit closer perhaps. But then it's going to be in the frame with the camera. So today I'm kind of actually working on, oh yeah, I'm going to have to zoom in that BBE. Let's see. I feel so seen. Yeah, I need to figure out a better way to have this on the prompter. And I know that I can do that through the like Elgato app thing, but I'm not sure if I want to fuck with all that today. That's the hassle. That's the Hasselhoff. Which honestly, if I'm just doing that, I'm gonna put it over here so I can blow it up real big, and then I'll just look at the camera. Today's not gonna be one of those days where I'm like, hey, pop out chat. What the? There we go. Now I can just drag that over here. Ooh boy, that didn't work at all. The problem is that the screens on this like are not where they physically are. They're where like, because the prompter uses this weird little mirror screen that technically appears like over here even though it's physically there. Also, I'm mirrored and I'm not just dabbing, but now I am. So I am picking up here. Morning possum, by the way. I am picking up here because it's just like, wow, I forgot that I already made like a table that was going to be really good for Trench Crusade. Specifically because I really like trench warfare and stuff. So I kind of already did that thing. But with that said, I do need to fix quite a few things about this board that I don't particularly like. A couple things. That has to be terrible. I'm so sorry. I'm working on the layout here, but hopefully you could see in the pictures. At least I've got my 2 lights for actually like filming when I'm doing like videos as opposed to just like streaming in the morning when I'm just talking. Which obviously I want to have that set up. The plan is eventually to get to the point that I can do my morning hobby hang like at my table with the lights on and everything kind of set up, and just kind of wake up, do our thing, and then kind of figure out what we're going to get into today, and then go from there. But having the lights mounted so they're not connected to the table frees up the table to where I can put this thing on, and I'm gonna have to get closer to that. I think, or maybe I can make the font bigger. Or, you know what? I'm gonna keep both of them. I'm gonna keep both of them, and I'm gonna pop over there and I'll read that real quick. And then I'm gonna look right in there. Yeah, I'm talking to myself like a crazy person. What's this say, Possum? Possum hurt his back and he's laid up in bed today. No! Well, that means I'll get to keep you company today, Possum. How did you hurt your back? That's awful. Back injuries are no joke at all. Yeah, and I'm glad that you're resting up and laying in bed, because like that's how you really mess yourself up forever, is like not letting your body heal. And I have done that. And I know a lot of people that have done that. Nick, Modern Synthesis, I know had some issues with his leg, and I was just like, dude, you need to quit fucking walking. Like, you're gonna lose your leg. Say don't play with that shit. Back injuries though are really, really serious. Hopefully you're okay. Hopefully it's just something pulled, which still sucks. I know I've definitely done like so much work like in the yard and stuff that like I'll wake up the next day and I'll just be almost like I don't even wake up. I'm just like I'm asleep and then I'm awake. I'm existing now, but I'm still like asleep. But my entire body hurts, and I feel like I've been thrown in an oven. And I'm just screaming to my wife. I'm just like, "Oh my god, everything hurts!" And she's like, "What?" Because she was asleep. But yeah, no, I definitely have had that. And then you get the Bengay and you rub it all over your shoulders, and you're just like, "Man, I smell so good and mentholated." And then you're like, "This was pretty good. Thanks." Wild, wild stuff. And it has to do, I've looked into it before because my great uncle and I, we went on a tangent together about how great Bengay and Icy Hot are. And then just looking into how the hell does that even work? But it's like it has to do with something with it. It absorbs into your skin, and it essentially just it it doesn't numb the muscles. It causes them to like relax. Like just it's very cool science. Love science. This says, moving 1,000 pounds of tile using the wrong power equipment. I'll be fine. Just need to rest the muscles. Yeah, there you go. Huzzah. Gotta rest up. Gotta be safe. Ba-dow. Here's a little dude. So that's a little trench guy. That's only the trench guy I've got right now. Trench Crusade guy, but that's from the 28 mag, the physical copy one. If you pre-ordered that, I'm pretty sure, or if you back that on Kickstarter, you got one of these guys. And to show that off, I need to start wearing my headphones, but the headphones make my little head look like whack, so I'm not sure if I want to do that all the time. But and I could definitely rock some ear pods. And I'm not going to be doing this situation. This is while I'm trying to figure out how to have the mic right here. Actually, that's just to have the mic right here. I have the lavalier mics again that I purchased. I purchased them before I bought any of this other stuff. I bought them when I got the little camera when I first started looking into, hey, I think this is what I want to do. But I didn't have as much of a, yeah, I want to make it look professional as fuck too. Opinion. It was more of just I want to show people what I'm doing. But now I've really hit a point of where I know what I want to do. So I'm pretty excited, but I wanted to be able to mount my cameras, my lights, my microphones wherever, and it's really cool. I never got this, but I'm going to rant about this for just a second. Okay, this is the end of that little clip that you would screw the light, or you would screw the pole, or sorry, the mic, or really anything else, like for like recording kind of stuff. What's really cool, and Nick, Modern Synthesis, Mr. Pink, if you nasty, had pointed out before that that's really cool because you do so many things with that. And I never thought about what the hell would I do with that other than lights and equipment and stuff. Like, I know he was really excited that the old Citadel paint, the model holders that you use when you're like painting, he was excited that they had that same attachment. And I was just thinking, that's cool, but what the hell would I ever use that for? And now I get it, because it's just like, man, if I make a real dope model that I want to have like suspended by any reason, like I could mount it on a tripod to have it like almost elevating or like floating, which I haven't showed these yet, and I'm real excited. I was trying to wait until we were a little bit closer, but considering that I already have a 4x4 board based on my, and by least favorite, I mean, like, it's the scary, like Passchendaele. This is based, the board I took, this board I took so many pictures of Passchendaele from, it's a city, but it was the site. I've ranted about this. If you've not listened to me rant about World War One or get Grandpa, prepare, because it's coming. I love World War One. I love horror. So I'm so fucking pumped that Trench Crusade is a game that actually meets and matches my values and my ethics, my morals, because that is really kind of where I'm at now with gaming. I really want to support. I want to support creators that respect me as a person, and not my money. And I think I want to support people in the world like that too. So I'm really excited about Trench Crusade, and my worries were based off of other people being shitty with something that, people I've been following their work for years made. So I'm really, really excited to work on that. And I think really knowing, again, this is not to just circle jerk about, oh man, Trench Crusade's so great, but it's just, again, the people. And that's the same thing with every time I go to a 28 event, or anyone that I've talked to, they go to a 28 event, they get back home, their family or whoever, wife, husband, significant other, it's just like, hey, what was your favorite part? And it's just like, and don't say the people. That's Eric's wife, says that to him every time he goes somewhere. She's like, what's your favorite part? And don't say the people. But the favorite part is always the people. That's the reason that we like play these little silly games, is because having fun with your friends is fucking cool. And if you, I think the more that you limit yourself to what kind of fun you have as a person, I mean, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. But I'm very excited. Eric Wire. She does. Hell yeah. I didn't know you were here, Eric. Hey, Eric. I see, like, I can see how many people are watching and stuff, but it never tells me who's here. So I'm just like, I wonder who that is sneaking around in my chats, in my YouTube channel. But today I wanted to show this, and I wanted to start getting the ball actually rolling. But this is a board that I made based off of photographs of the third Battle of Ypres, which is the single scariest place that I know of in history. If you're like, okay, Eli, RedWetSkeleton, you're going to go anywhere in history, where do you not want it to be? That's my number one answer. Number one answer, third Battle of Ypres during World War I. I don't want to be in Passchendaele. It's the scariest place I've ever heard of. The fucking ground eats you. It eats you up. It's just really, 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 really scary. And on top of that, everything else, you're in World War I. So it's like already like the craziest man-made hell we've ever like imagined. Like, I can't stress enough. That's the part that gets me so fucking pumped about World War I, is the sheer scale of insanity and horror that our species was so fucking pumped to unleash on each other. Like, it's just fucking crazy. There's that's really it. Is the reason that I love World War I so much, like, as far as why it gets me so interested, is because it is, I think, the biggest example of just how self-destructive our species is, and how our species works as a whole. Like, I mean, we advanced our species technologically at least a century in 4 years. That is fucking crazy. And we have not had anything like that until like computers, like until like, the invention of the fucking internet, which is, I can't stress enough, the fact that I'm able to talk to you all in my basement right now, that is as close to black magic as we can get. I'm not going to talk a lot about telecom and shit, because I don't know if legally I can. But I think the more that like people just accept, like, oh yeah, that's how this works, or that's how that works. I'm not saying you should be afraid of how technology works. I'm just saying, when you understand like the level of how fucking crazy stuff that we use and we take advantage, we take it granted every day. Like, when you realize that, it puts a lot of things into perspective. When I was at Adepticon, I think it was Tanner. I think Tanner is the very, very, very tall wizard gentleman with circle glasses that makes dope noise sets at like convention centers. Hell yeah. I'm pretty sure that was Tanner. But, oh fuck, what was I going with that? Piss. I lost it, guys. I'm sorry. I was talking about Tanner, and I got real pumped thinking about his noise set. He was a real cool dude. Oh man, shit. I lost it. I was talking about World War I. I was talking about Passchendaele. I was talking about people being proud about what they do. People being awesome. Man. I'm sorry. Okay, hold on. Someone said something. Haha. Man, I'm so glad you guys are here. Technology by night. Oh, thank you. Man, that's so good. See, this is great. This works out for all of us. You guys want to learn what I'm talking about? And I would love to finish talking about what I'm talking about. Black magic. Yeah, technology is straight up black magic. Well, not all of it, but the moment that you get into like the internet, communications, telecom, all that straight up is just fucking black magic. Like the first person that are like thought of how to like do those things, they were a crazy person. Period. Like that's a crazy person. Like fortunately, we're all lucky that that's what they did with their time. But I think so many people are just they don't want to think about things really like from like a constructive standpoint. And that's all I do. I am, if you meet me, I'm often like a nervous fucking wreck, and that's because like the amount of things running through my head at all the time as I'm trying to just be like, okay, just trying to exist, because this world is crazy if you actually look at what people think and like not even like what they think, but cause and effect. It's nuts. But yeah, so at some point in time, someone figured out how to break down frequencies, sounds, and put them through electricity. And that was like the whole start of all this crazy shit. But that is like, and that was a big thing with my personal project, which I do still want to work on that setting also. I wanted to touch on that before I got too deep in the sauce of Trench Crusade. I still have many plans to make my own setting. I absolutely might, depending on how things go though, I might rehome some of that stuff if the Trench Crusade boys are interested, because again, I don't want to make something that's only mine, because I'm going to go in the ground. Like when I'm dead, someone else can just have my shit. Like doesn't matter to me. And that means like the concepts, the stories that I wanted to tell. And that is the thing that I've been struggling with, because I do want to finish telling a story that Ed and I were telling, but I'm also very torn, because my relationship with the company that makes the products that I like a lot, I've really started to just kind of see things for what they are. And I can lie to myself and say, oh, they didn't do this because of that, or they didn't do this because of that. I can tell myself those things, but like I know why the decisions to make money get made. They get made to make money. Like, and at the end of the day, I can't support rolling with people like that. No matter how long I've been with them, like even if it's been like almost my entire life, like it's like, yeah, at some point I'm going to fucking cut that cord and take a Dremel, and I'm going to obliterate all the IP off of all their stuff. And I'm going to cover it in crosses and skulls upside down. And, we're going to have a bunch of Trench Crusade shit. I've got a whole lot of shit. So, I'm really excited to really hit this going hard. And with that said, I also think that the guys from Trench Crusade, Mike and Tomas, whose professional work I followed since my journey into this hobby started, which was really cool. It was really cool getting to meet Mike and Tomas. So everyone who was at Adepticon, I hope you took advantage of that and actually said hi to them. Shook their hands, because they are charms. And again, I'm still very happy that both of them were offended that I that I asked them about the Nazi shit. And I told that to Alexander as well. I was like, yeah, I think they were offended. And it's like, that's good. I wanted them to be. If I asked you, hey, I heard about this Nazi shit, and you're like, oh yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal, I don't want to work with you. Like, I want you to be like, yeah, fuck Nazis. What are you doing? But yeah, that's just kind of the person that I am. I like to look people in the eye and get a good vibe of who they are. Because I don't have, I mean, I do have the ability to be an absolute fucking wolf in sheep's clothing. I know I can. I've done it professionally for a decade and a half. I mean, actually, it just depends. Wolf in sheep's clothing, it depends on the situation. If you're a good person, they just call it masking. But yeah, hey, I'm sorry. We're not talking about Trench Crusade, are we? Did you want to tell them anything about Trench Crusade? She's happy. So it's really, really, really stormy right now. And we have a wreath on our wreath, W-R-E-A-T-H. We have a wreath on our front door. 7:38. I'm gonna have to make coffee in 2 minutes, but I'm coming back. So we have a wreath on our front door, and it is like crazy stormy. Oh, okay. I'm thinking I need to get like a little cushion or a padding to put under here. That way it doesn't hurt her little joints when she jumps down, because this is a concrete floor. And even though it's not that far down, I don't want her to hurt her little leggies. Oh boy, I did it. I was talking about Trench Crusade. I was talking about Margot. Oh, Margot, we have a wreath on our front door, and it's crazy storming. It's going to rain like the next X amount of days. So, and Margot is over there looking at the ground. So we might be taking on water, Mr. Squidward. I'm not sure. But that was the thing that my wife and I got to deal with yesterday, was trying to get everything out of the way so the torrential downpour can come into our basement. Hopefully this will be the last time before I get to like have a chance to fix it to keep it from coming in. But today I'm going to be pretty much streaming most of the day. Just having the camera on, and I mean, I'll be here, I'll be talking, thinking, but I would love the company. I'm planning on just starting to make a board to play Trench Crusade on. And I think I want to do it. I'm trying to use as much existing Games Workshop terrain and stuff that I have to show how someone in my situation could take what they have and just switch, to a side that cares about them as people. Those are my opinions also. I can't stress that enough. Everything that I'm saying is just my opinion. I've got a lot of friends in places, but those are just friends. And my opinions don't obviously reflect anything that they're saying. I can't stress that enough. But at the same time, if you actively are here at my channel and listening to my opinions, I think you already know that I don't have opinions that the majority of people share. So I am going to go make coffee real quick, and then I'm going to come right back, and we're gonna get on this. I'm gonna be. I've got to set up I've got to set up all my printers because they are all over here now, which means that I also need to rewire. I'm starting to talk. And I'm gonna get into it. I'm gonna go make the coffee. I'll be right back. thirsty though. All right, I'm back. Wow. And there's more people here than there were when I left. That's crazy. Thanks, guys. So, I don't remember what we were talking about, but other than black magic, yeah, Trench Crusade. We're going to be doing a bunch of Trench Crusade stuff today. So I've got all of the terrain from Warcry, and I'm going to be, I mean, you already know, this guy was just begging to be made something really religious and offensive. It's just a big head. So, I'm debating if I want to go. Actually, I'm not even debating. I know the right answer. So, because this is a 4x4, though, no, I think that's the right way to do it. I don't know if I want to show people how to make. I think the best way to do it would be. I'll probably do both. I'll do both. I'm going to make terrain using this stuff and the other GW parts that I've got. I'm really excited to show you guys what's in the box of ruins. It just says ruins. It's a Rubbermaid box over there. I've only got 2 left. Like I took down all of my Rubbermaids. They were stacked in the corner, but that's what all of my scrap and stuff was in. It is so hot in my basement right now. This is Who Day. But yeah, so I've got this box of ruins over there that are pretty much the old Cities of Death, which that would be Games Workshop 2006, 2005, 2006. But that would be the very first like multi-part like plastic buildings that they put together, so you could like have a bunch of different like layouts as opposed to just the Gothic ruins that were in like the 3rd edition set. This was like the first big building like kind of kits that they put together for the release of Codex City Fight, which was awesome. Actually, it might not even been City Fight. It might have been for, I think it was for 4th or 5th edition. But it was City Fight, but it was like the second one, like when it was like a hardback book. The original one was like an actual just like paper book, and that one had stratagems and shit. They went really good. They were really good. It's very similar to a lot of the 30K kind of campaign stuff. I really like that stuff where, and that's another thing. Before I get too much onto that, I'm going to have to take this hoodie off. Okay. So, I'm always afraid that like if I just like take off my clothes, like that I'm gonna like catch my shirt and pull it up, and then I'm just streaking on camera, and I don't really want to do that. So that's saved just for the OnlyFans, where I specifically show my burnt foot. So that's way too hot. I'm gonna have to give that a little bit. So I've got all of the Warcry terrain with it. And I think I know what that says from here. And I think there's a question mark after it. Yeah. So Martin had, when we were in Texas, I was on the other side of, we were in this huge B&B. And I have another one of these of like white. So like it's a lot harder to read. And that's actually the picture of me like in the background that Eric took that I really, really, really like, that has the child inverted, which is very funny because it's got the baby, the child inverted, and then it's got me in the background, and I'm wearing a shirt that says daddy. And I personally really like it, especially because like the child inverted is a baby, but it's like a self-portrait. So it's really, I am my own father kind of meta level for me. Which that's a whole other thing. Like, which is that. I'm not going to get into that. But with terrain and whatnot, I really want to make I want to show how anybody can do this. And I want to make it to where it's not like inconvenient. So I think I'm going to stick with just the 4x4 table like this, because anybody can have a 4x4 table. Well, not anybody can. If you have a floor that's at least 4x4. I'm not going to, if you're watching me, you have access to the internet, you have access to 4x4 of space. This is pretty reasonable. Now, you might not have that in your home. I'm not making that assumption. I'm still waking up. Man, I'm digging myself a real fucking deep hole here. I'm just trying to get canceled. Accidentally stepped on a worm. It was in the middle of the garage. Oh no! Well, he'll become 2 worms. The whole thing I was going about with Martin was he was the only one that could read my shirt, but he was across the room, and in a very southern voice, he said, "Hey, Daddy." And I was the only one who heard him, but I looked, and then we both laughed. But he said it in a way that I have cousins that say "daddy," but it sounds like "diddy," because they called their father dad. I don't know. It's weird. That's weird. That's a whole different thing. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. Today I'm going to be showing you how or at least planning out what I'm going to be doing. I don't know if I'm going to actually get into the nitty gritty, or if I'm just going to be pulling out a whole bunch of shit so I can start really going hard on it tomorrow. But probably, I mean, shit, I've got today. I'm going to wake up, and once my brain starts working, I'm going to be doing this. But yeah, I want to make a board with scatter terrain, because scatter terrain, while I think the best boards are like, built in, they are very situational. And this is a game that I plan on playing a metric fuck ton. So I want to be able to play literally every scenario with whatever kind of, terrain. I want to make this a place like where I'm just like, yeah, I'm all about this blasphemous trench war game. Because yeah, I've been wanting to make some trench shit for a long time. Unfortunately, other games don't like things as brutal as I like them. But that's one thing that I really loved about this game, and I didn't rant about that yet. As far as how it plays, and my game with Atri, and watching her and Bennett play, I definitely picked up on it. But looking at the rules myself, they get me so fucking pumped, because the game plays the way that you want it to, in the sense like a video game. So the big issue that I have with a lot of wargaming outside of skirmish, and so a skirmish game, I'm going to grab some models. I'll be right back. Because I feel like I need to start pretending like, while I know that there are some of you here that absolutely love tabletop gaming, I know that my audience is people who don't. And that's actually not, let me rephrase that. My audience is not people who don't. My audience is everybody who wants to know what I'm doing and is interested in what I do. Or just wants to listen to me talk. But I definitely want to be the first person that someone that is just hearing about tabletop gaming, I want to be the first person that they meet, because one, I want to hit them with how intensely passionate I am, to where they're like, okay, if you can't handle someone like this who's really pumped about like how much they love this thing, you're probably not going to want to hang out in like community places, because we're all like that. Not really. Actually, a lot of people don't like come up and talk. They're very shy. But if you get them talking, you have to know how to get them talking. But if you're making friends, you're trying to introduce people. So you're going to find a lot of people, whether you're, like that or not, that are very passionate about any kind of fan base. So I'm really excited about that, because it's a game that I know the people who made it have the same values that I do. And that was the other thing that I keep forgetting to say. I keep getting almost there. When I messaged Alexander, that's another thing, is I was very proud that his response to me when I said, hey man, like my whole thing with Trench Crusade, I don't want you to think for a minute that I thought you were about that life, or that I thought the Trench Crusade guys were about that life. And I have not. Like, there wasn't a single second that I thought that Tomas or Mike or Alexander or James were pro, conservative, like hyper conservative, pseudo neo Nazi shit. Like, yeah, no, I don't, any of that shit. I would never think that any of those people would be associated with. One, and this is a little bit of bias on my part, they're European. It's a different, it's very unfortunate that, yeah, all the issues, to my knowledge at least, that were from Trench Crusade initially during the Kickstarter are fucking over here. But that's also part of why I really want to establish the kind of like support for the game and also the kind of like grounding like that I want to have for it, where I would like to be someone that says, yeah, no, it's not what you think it was, because I also thought that too. But yeah, having watched the game play and having looked into the lore and having finally like given it the chance, now that I knew that it was something that it would not possibly cause me to look the other way. And that's really it, is I know who I am. I fucking am obsessed with World War I history, the technology, everything. I just find it fascinating because of it, in 4 years, the world just changed more than any other time pre-internet, period. Like medicine, like everything went crazy. Like we rode in on horses and we left in tanks, which did not fucking exist. The word tank was just it was a term, and there's a term for it. I don't remember, but it's a fake name. Like you give it that name, so if anyone spies on you and finds out what it is, they're like, what the fuck's a tank even? Because they were called land ships. But yeah, I could seriously just fucking talk about World War One all day. It's just so interesting and horrifying. That's the other thing. It's just horrifying. Every single bit of it was just horrifying, and it's just the every man, every woman, every human, every being, like war, like it just a very no good, no bad, just awful, just nightmarish. And I personally find that very interesting to play in, because I don't know, when it's a very black and white, good versus bad, it's pretty boring. With that said, with Trench Crusade, because it is heaven versus hell, a lot of people really initially hit me with it's very clear, blah blah blah, as the bad guys. It's like, I mean, yeah, hell's bad, but I mean also perspective. Because like in the lore for Trench Crusade, like the church is not great. It's very much the lore is, I'm very much digging it. If you like 40K lore, which is very grim, it's like they took Christianity and went further with it, and I like it. I'm a fan. I really like the anchorite shrines, which are essentially this giant like walker that has like, if I'm reading correctly, it's essentially like a dreadnought from 40K, but like with a bunch of like pilgrims inside, or just one pilgrim, and they carry a big breaking wheel, which, if you know your boy, I love breaking wheels. Always have. There's just something really fucking horrifying about them. But yeah, it's a game that's just like, yeah, you could choose one of your models before you start to break on the wheel as a show of dedication. And I'm like, well, I thought I was gonna only play hell, but it turns out heaven's really cool too. Like, there's just so much really fucked up metal shit. And the Sultanate is probably the one, like, on. It's hard to say. There's only 6 factions. And I guess I could talk about that if that's something that you guys would be interested in. I've just been rambling and ranting, but I think it's just because I'm feeling good. I'm looking at this table in front of me, and I'm like, it's gonna be fun making terrain. And I'm pretty much just going to be laying stuff out today, looking at what goes with what can look really good, how I could make it fit the aesthetic that I'm going for. And that is a big thing that I'm probably going to, I'll probably put it right here. I've got these 2 mounts, and I don't think you can see my hands. So I've got these 2 mounts right here that I've got my crazy grandpa storage, going above, like, or underneath the floor. So I've got these 2x4x8s. That's two inches thick, which is actually 1.75 inches, 3 3/4 wide, and then 8 feet. Going across that, I've got all of my Gundam kits like stacked in, like ones that are waiting to be built, which is a lot. I have a lot of Gundam kits waiting to be built. Gundam, I love Gundam. I always have. It is 100% a hobby that I find myself more interested in the more unhappy I am with myself. Because it is one that I can. It's like essentially the equivalent of like my grown up Lego, where I can just open a box and I don't have to think and I just follow along and just make things. And that's always been something that's just been very pleasing to me, is to just kind of relax and just make something. Which my wife will look over and just watch me, like, piecing together like the 75th part of like the Sasbi Verika, and I'm just like, man, I'm so relaxed. I'm so relaxed using these tweezers and little itty bitty pieces. But yeah, I've always liked that. So I'm pretty much taking this terrain and I'm going to be making it into scatter terrain, which scatter terrain, if you are not familiar with tabletop gaming and you just happen to be stumbling in, that would be all of this. Anything that can be moved around on the board, as opposed to something that is physically attached to the board. And I don't think I have. Actually, I do. I can show you a tree. So and this actually. So this is technically scatter terrain as well. However, this is scatter terrain that was made with the intention, along with these, to allow it to kind of blend into the board better. So essentially, that is just taking a piece of plastic, gluing it on the bottom there, and then using different materials to level that out. But I'm so anal and finicky that I still kind of am just like, I wish that I couldn't see where it's sitting on the board. I wish it was connected. And that would be where you would get into non-modular, like just a single set. This board only looks one way. And I really do love those kinds of boards, but they can get old. Some people can get tired of that. I love the idea of a living board, and that is eventually what I'm going to be doing, especially given my love of World War I and my love of metal shit. I really want to make, and it'll probably be this one, because I think my plan is to take these tiles, also, I never answer that question, Possum. I'm a cat daddy. I've got cats. I don't have any kids. I'm also a nightmare daddy. I make nightmares. But that's hence the daddy shirt. It is very funny though whenever I get like food and I forget that I'm wearing this, or if I get mail. If anybody comes to my door and I forget that I'm wearing this, or I roll the trash can out, it is funny when people drive by. Anywho, so this is a 12 by 12 tile that essentially you take 16 of these and you got a 4 by 4. You would need like a frame, another variant. I'm just going to grab it. That sounds great. Would be these Zone Mortalis tiles from Games Workshop. these boys. So, and other companies do make them. I know this is one that I started fucking with for my 30K ZM board, and I mean, I am going to finish that. So I'm not going to turn my ZM board into a Trench Crusade board because my attachment to that is not a desire to stay in GW's IP. It's a desire to finish the story that my friend Ed and I started. And we started playing 40K together, so I want to stick. I don't want to try to convert that story into something else. But yeah, this is one of the tiles, and eventually, I mean, I'm sorry, this looks like shit because I don't have all of my cameras set up. I just have that one. To give an idea, those are straws, essentially. I wanted when you look at it, I don't want you to look at the plastic and see pipes, that are molded to look like they're under there. I want, like, the physical, I wanted there to be actual pipes running underneath of there and there to be grating over top. So that is what I was doing with that. And then I ended up not going that route and pretty much 3D printing a shit ton of stuff like this. And then building a 4x4 board. And I'll eventually show that whole thing. I've done some really fun detailing on it that I like a lot. Where I've got a lot of cabling that is, it looks very, very much, in my opinion, it looks like something from Inquisitor. I could see Eisenhorn walking around in there, or just as, someone, one of the legions from 30K. I'm really excited about those. So those will be something. I'm completely abandoning Warhammer as a whole. I'm not. I need to step away though, because I am becoming too fucking toxic and angry about how they handle certain things just because of the rest of the world. I'm not able to turn that blind eye anymore. So, if you still love Warhammer, I'm not trying to dunk on anybody's what they like by any means, ever. So, unless you like Nazi shit, fuck you. Make that very clear. So yeah. These are tiles. You take 16 of these. You would have a 4x4. Now, Trench Crusade, it is supposed to be able to be played on a 3x3 or a 4x4. And I bitched about this board being 4x4 and how it's too big. And it's just like, it's only too big because I'm carrying it. Like, a 4x4 board is actually really not that bad. It fits pretty comfortably on this table. A 3x3... I think it depends how it all really, and again, it completely comes down to how much terrain is on the board. And that's what I was getting with I want to make a living board for. So I'm going to make two boards for Trench Crusade. So probably the first one is going to be on tiles. Or not the first one, but yeah, no, the first one that's technically done will be on tiles because I'm going to make the scatter terrain separate. And then I am making the tiles after I do the terrain. The terrain that I'm making now, scatter terrain, I will play with it on here. The tiles, eventually when they're done, they will be something that I will be able to put in my car, take to Hard Knocks down the road, put my terrain in the car, take it to Hard Knocks, and be able to run demo games, take them to wherever to run demo games. I want to be able to do that. While preaching my truth of being a good person while playing games. And then this board will become a living board. I am going to make, or the party house. Honestly, I'll probably just call it party house. That's what this board will be named because, I don't know if Josh LSGX is still here, but that boy knows about party house. In Battlefield 1, which is one of my favorite games. It's my favorite shooter of all time. Easy. And then right after that's probably Hell Let Loose, but only before they got rid of, like, the necessity to use comms. Like, whenever it was just, like, all comms, like, that game was so fucking scary. So scary. Because, like, you wouldn't... Everything was just... It was just too, like, so realistic simulator. Like, and you don't have kill cams. There's, like... It's like the World War II version of Arma, essentially, for those of you who know what Arma is. But it's very much... Not so much a game as it is more like a simulator. And And the only thing that I think pushes it a little bit to where it's like, yeah, it's a game, is like if it was a little more realistic, like simulator, it just wouldn't fucking be fun. But man, that game is so, being in a tank and being like only able to control one part of it and having two other people that you have to rely on to tell you where to turn and where to drive, like it's so, such a cool vibe. Like you feel like you're fucking there. But yeah, I don't know. There's certain games that when I play them, like video game wise, I feel like I'm there. They managed to capture that vibe. In Battlefield 1, the vibe that it captures is so good. It's not, I mean, it's way different than World War One was. I'm not trying to say it's historically accurate. It is not. I love it because it introduced, one, it was amazing gameplay, but two, the environmental, like the concept art. I have, I got the concept art book. I love concept art. There's so much good like ideas in there, and also they made really good maps. Like I love to play on a game, like on a map where I know that it's equal and even, because that means that if anything, if I win or lose, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But I want to have fun, but I want to have fun. I like there to be some kind of challenge. I don't like to just smash the Beatles. I don't like, yeah, I don't know. Also, I'm a masochist, so it's just a, I like there to be a fucking challenge. Amiens, the city, the French city Amiens. There is a map of that in Battlefield 1 that is one of the best like first person shooter maps that I think I've ever played on. It's very balanced, but it's not a mirror map. And that is the only, in my opinion, that's the only reason where it's not entirely balanced, is because the further that the map goes out, the more it becomes disbalanced. But if you stay right in the center of the city, it's very well balanced. Neither side starts with an advantage, and that's what I like. I like a story to develop naturally from just what we're doing, not to where it's just like it's already going to be dictated before we start playing by the rules, by the layout. I love that. I love a naturally occurring story. Like it's just very good. So Battlefield 1 gave a shit ton of inspiration. And that's which the whole thing, again, I don't play like I'm not a big first person shooter guy outside of, I mean, I played a fuck ton of Halo and Destiny. I'm a first person shooter guy, but I'm not like a big video game guy. I don't just play video games. I mainly prefer to do this. I have to be in like in a vibe to where I'm like, essentially I have to be looking for escapism when I'm like video game time or I'm really sleepy. But as far as the maps, there also were so many good maps from Battlefield 1 that were released in the They Shall Not Pass, which, if you're watching this, you're probably nerdy enough. You Shall Not Pass, Gandalf. That is a reference to Thomas. I'm trying to remember his name, but no, Neville, Robert Neville, which was like the head motherfucker of like the French when like they held Verdun for pretty much forever, which that is probably where we're going with my living board. And by living board, I mean I want to have a board that it's set. It is a set board that it looks the same no matter what. But every game that I play, whatever happens in that game, like I want to show the impact on the board. Like, oh yeah, there's a big battle over here, so like maybe we'll destroy part of it. I want to have something like that. I think that'd be really fun, especially if it's one that I'm keeping specifically here, which it will be. That's the big thing. The big thing with like a 4x4 board is it is a bitch to move. It is a bitch to pack. The top of it, I mean, you can't really see, thankfully, because of the glare. It actually looks a lot. It doesn't look bad. I'm a perfectionist. And again, I was basing this off of hundreds of photos of Passchendaele from like an airplane, black and white photos, but it was just I find that piece of land so utterly horrifying, that I wanted it to be like the reference that I used for my game board at home. And that is this is the board that I took to Visterion, and I made all my buildings for that, again, were based on Passchendaele. And I'll bust those out because I'm thinking you guys are probably going to want to see those. They're fucked. Like the buildings aren't, but I made so many really, really, really metal terrain pieces. I wanted to have a field of impaled bodies and burnt corpses. Like I wanted. So in Visterion, the Visterion board that I made this for my morning. Good morning. I gotta see this. Timothy Gerber Fleury. Good morning, Timothy. Good to see you. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. So talking about some Trench Crusade and some terrain board stuff. Let's see, where was I? I don't know. Probably Fort Vaux though. Fort Vaux is horrifying. Really, any of the old forts in Verdun, and I'm talking like literally like the places, not just like the game. Verdun is one of the scariest places. Like Passchendaele gets my award, and then after that, it's literally anywhere near Verdun. But honestly, France. If you just said Europe 1914 to 1918, I don't want to be there. It sucked. It sucked a lot. A lot of, and like the difference is, I guess, why I find World War One scarier than World War Two. World War Two, it was like, it's just bad. You're just bad. You're just the bad guys. Like World War One, it wasn't like, oh, we're bad guys. We're trying to do crazy science experiments. And I'm sure there were some of those, but I mean, they were very, I don't recall. I've never heard of anything during World War One. It was mainly just people killing people for no goddamn reason. But that is unfortunately how we got to everything else. And that's with people killing people for no goddamn reason. Once you start doing that, all the other things that the groups and whatnot have been involved in for forever starts to come out. And then it's not just killing people for no reason anymore. Now it's killing people because like you all have had beef since the beginning of time. And a very big prime example of that is Germany and Russia. They, for American listeners, there are countless war crimes like committed between like Germans and Russians on both sides, like during World War One, because those are two groups of like. And when I say Germany, I can't stress this enough. Germany was not a country during World War One. It was like an empire of like a million little countries. And they all essentially felt like they were being bullied, because they were, by the big countries around them. So they banded together and became the scariest country in the continent. Yeah, and that's mainly the Prussian side. The Prussian side, there's so many cool little countries that make up like Germany. And again, I love history. Like I'm equally as interested in France as I am Germany. It's not just a German thing. Both of them, I think, are the two sides of the same coin, as far as culture goes. And it's, as an American, I'm sure that my opinions are, who fucking cares? I mean, even as a non-American, who fucking cares about my opinion? But I've always loved learning more and more about both of those two from that time period. But again, it's just kings, being assholes, and everybody else paying the price for it for forever. But Trench Crusade, I'm really excited about Trench Crusade because of how explosive it can be and how it is a skirmish game. So in 40K, like just regular 40K, you have like a big group of dudes and they move, and terrain kind of means something, but it doesn't really. Whereas in Trench Crusade, say if I'm standing here and you're standing here, I can't see you physically. That means I can't see you physically. Like, and obviously that is not the same. That's I am summarizing it. For those of you that don't play regular 40K, it's not that you can see through walls. because of how wounds carry and stuff. There's just, it's convoluted, and it's also, in my opinion, just not a skirmish. Like a skirmish is, I'll give you 20. I'll say like 20 to 30 guys is like a skirmish. That's like 3 groups of 10. It's not a big battle, but the moment a tank gets involved, it's like, that's a tank. That's not a skirmish. There's a tank there. And I think maybe that's what the guys were going for with Trench Crusade, because there are tanks mentioned, but there are no tanks like in the game. And I like that. Now there are like walkers, which I also really like. But so I guess I'm trying to think of where to start on what I want to go with from here. So yeah, I've got the scatter train, and I'm going to be filing off the symbols for stuff that don't fit in with the vibe that I'm going for. I've got my tiles, and those, the thing that I don't like about tiles is the lines, and that's the same kind of issue that I've got going on with this board. Is when I made this board, I spent a lot of time thinking about how it had to be made, because if you just take, and that's another thing I want to say real quick, in case anyone's watching this and you're like, man, that looks great, I'll go and buy a 4x4 piece of wood and I'll slap a bunch of texture paint on it. Don't. You're gonna fuck your board up. I stepped on something. What does this possum say? Do you have a design goal, a philosophy going into making your boards? Do you have a design goal? When to make your boards? So not really. That's a very good question. I guess I don't. Typically, I will be hit by an idea. Like an image will go into my brain, and I have to make it, and I can see it, and I can imagine what pieces can be made with what components, and then I get them out of here and I throw it together as quick as I can before I forget it, kind of like I do with talking. So yeah, that like exact same thing where I'm just like, man, do you guys remember what I was talking about? That happens to me all the time, and that's why I am constantly like, I have to get this out, and I'll grab like a piece of paper and I'll just sketch something, or I'll just grab some parts and I'll start cutting and I'll start gluing, because I will just be sitting here, and I realize that this is not a normal thing now, like for everybody, but this is literally my entire life. I will be sitting here, and then just an image of something that I'm like, man, that's fucking cool, just pops into my head, and I can just like think about every single detail of it and perfect it in my head. And it's just like that for me. But then it's like I've got lightning in a bottle, and I'm trying to like, oh fuck, what do I do with this? So finding a way to channel that in like almost just letting it out to where I can keep up with it is difficult. But that's really, I guess, the flow that I've gotten into is really, I guess, since I started making my demons. And it was just a very, I mean, really what it was, just to be blunt, it's like, you know, when you seek ego death and succeed, afterwards it's pretty shattering, and you're just like, why the fuck don't I just do what I want to do? And that's awesome, but sucks. But yeah, like I think realizing there was just a very quick, like a click, and it was just like, I know what I want them to look like. I know what all of them are going to look like. I need to start making them. And then from there, it's just a combination of hanging out with different people also, and like meeting other hobbyists, and I mean, honestly, just like kind of stealing some of their vibes. But like there's no way that my demons would have been like anywhere near as close to done if I didn't start thinking about things in a very different way from like how I normally make stuff. Like my wife the whole time would come over, and she would just be like, oh man, you know, are you sure you're good? You're sure you're good on time? You've got like, none of these are like starting to get painted. But it's because I would start building each of them. I would build to a certain level, and that's like when I would explain to people, it's just like, oh yeah, they're not done, they're not fully emerged. It's just like I think a lot of people looked at that as like, oh, it's a cop out, but it's like the concept was I wanted to show them like an ADB style. Aaron Dembski Bowden, for those of you who do not know, Aaron Dembski Bowden is one of my favorite Black Library authors, and he did the Black Library or the Black Legion series, which is my favorite, honestly, probably that he's done. But they are so fucking good in that he does a really good job of describing demons and where demons come from. That matches like what I assumed and how the warp worked. And I very much love that, and just the idea of what we do, that the warp is just a mirror of us, in all senses, because that's with all the kind of stuff that I was digging around in and willingly playing in. Like, these are the things, my traumas, my fears, my shames, the things that like really bother me. Like, these are the things that would become demons. So taking those and just looking at them from every angle possible, like splitting them, taking them further. Like, I mean, they're all various levels of myself. You know, kinks, traumas, shames, loves, heightened to extremes. They're the things that I think are very private about me that are turned up to like 15. Turned up to the point that just like I don't like them anymore, and then turned up even more to where it's now I'm afraid of them, and it's just like that's really how I did that. But I knew that I would never be able to finish them in time, so I had to think about them like very compartmentalized. I knew that, and the reason that I was mentioning Aaron Dembski Bowden, he specifically mentions that demons are not of our realm, that they cannot be looked at. You can't look directly at a demon. Like, your body, your mind won't allow that, because it's not of this plane. So they have a certain appearance that, like, when they come here, your brain, and they would look different to everybody, but I mean, based on that, based on the lore that it's presented in, essentially they're made up of fears. So I guess they wouldn't look different to everybody. They are made up of everybody's fears, but what is visible is a blur, because they rebel. Them existing in our plane it's when I don't know if this happens to other people often, but it happens to me all the fucking time. And I think, again, it's because I have ADHD. So it's like my senses are very heightened, and I'm aware that they are. Like, when you are hearing something and that the sound cuts out, but your brain is able to, figure out what the rest of it was, or when you're reading something and you like cut ahead to read the rest of it. So like, I'm a very firm believer that your other sensory organs do that too, not just your eyes. When you read, so like seeing stuff out of the corner of your eyes, anything like that, that is how the idea of like seeing something out of the corner of your eye, that's how I've always assumed that demons were, like, full on. Like, it's just like something is there that should not be there, and you can't comprehend it, or you're like, what the fuck? But it's like in front of you. That is the idea that I've always been like. That's what I think demons are. Every now and then you'll get a glimmer or a glimpse of something very, very horrifying, but the rest is very subdued and anomalous and blurred. And that's, with mine, I tried to make sure that the focal points, the points that were the most frightening or disturbing, were very, very clear and visible, and then everything else was just kind of pulled back and muted. And with some of them, I was able to do that with the Musuo Black, which is very much Vanta Black, to just try and completely remove the part to where it was just an abyss. I did that a lot, and I think that worked. But now that I'm like actually trying to finish them at some point, there will be a lot more detail, because I do want them to look like, oh shit, they have fully emerged into reality. They have established like a corporeal form, and shit's about to go down. But again, that's probably going to be later on, because that's more of like a personal project, and this is like a one, I've become like possessed by a madman, but I also am just like, fuck, I want to play this game so bad. Which, if you've not looked anything into it, I will go ahead and while I am just sitting here trying to think about drinking this coffee, I'll talk about that. But it's essentially World War One alternate timeline that I think I answered your question, Possum, about the boards. It's not so much. I use so much concept art and just images that I'll get a mental image and I will try to do my absolute best to make that reality. And I try to do it with as little compromise as I can. I'm really, really, really excited about trees. The trees that I've been like hoarding in my house, they are going to be so good for Trench Crusade because that's the kind of vibe that I was wanting to use them for. And I was like, okay, I'll probably just make them for Last War or something. But it's just like, oh man, I have like a forest of like dead trees. I'm just going to grab some. I'll show you real quick. So this is actually, here's one right here. This is not the one I was talking about. This is one that I mentioned earlier that it's like so this is modular. Almost. That almost went right in my coffee. So this is modular in that I could move this, around the table. However, this piece, it's like that. Like if this was just built onto the table, then it would not be modular and it would no longer be scatter terrain. But yeah, so this is I believe, a bonsai. I think this was a bonsai that I couldn't save. I tried to do that. I try to save plants. My wife likes to tell me, she was like, now, do you think you really could save it? And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't. So it died and I turned it into a tree. I'm pretty excited about that one. That one's pretty cool. My initial plan was, I think, it was going to have a bunch of corpses hanging from it. Very Guts mom, birth from a corpse. But the trees that I was talking about are these guys. So these are from the mums. MUM, the plant, not your mum. I'm gonna put this back over there. So okay. So essentially, because those are mums, and they are dead mums, they're very fragile. Now, I'm not the first one to do anything like that. Like, I give credit where credit's due. I know Anna from Gardens of Hecate has fucked with like making trees like this before, and I know Kari of Iron Sleet. Kari fucks. That dude makes the dopest shit. So he is actually the one that I got my initial, oh, that's how I would do this. And I didn't do it the same way that he did, but the whole thing with using organic components, which I do a lot now. I've really started to use a lot of organic components because they are there's nothing quite like it. Like I'm very good at sculpting organic bits and making it look like something is alive. But there is a difference between like what I can do with like my attempting to mimic nature and like actually just stealing nature's like organicness. I really hope none of that went in my coffee. I'm gonna make sure that in my brain none of it did. So yeah, I'm excited to make all these trees. That's a very key part of the aesthetic of World War One for me, is the miles upon miles of shattered no man's land with just like sticks sticking up out of them. Gonna be making lots of barbed wire. So if you've been wanting a tutorial on that, there will be one. You'll get to see me. I'm going to set up some kind of different system because I use a drill when I do it. I've got my drill that I'll take the copper wire and I clip it somewhere, and then I'll get like 20 feet away with little drill and the copper, and just and spin it until it gets real nice and tight, and then from there you take other copper wire and you wrap it. So it takes a long time, but I will be making lots of barbed wire. I don't know, I'm feeling like I'm probably running out of steam here, but that's probably because I've been going like almost 2 hours, or no, not 2 hours, about an hour and a half. I will be back in and out, I think. I don't want to make you just watch me. I'm not making anybody watch me. I guess I don't want to just be sitting here, still trying to figure out what I'm doing. And I know this is going to be the worst sound ever, when I start pulling all these out and dumping them. So I probably will fuck with that lavalier mic today. Outside of aesthetic, how often are you considering elements of gameplay when building terrain pieces? Does aesthetic take precedence over gameplay? Oh, I try to think about gameplay every bit of the way. So, and that was one of the things with why I stopped working on the board that I had, because I wanted to play it. I really wanted to play games like Horse Heresy and, I was even going to try 10th edition on it, or Necromunda would work too, and Necromunda is good, but I really want a game that plays the way that Battlefield 1 felt, and that is what I never got to. Party House. Party House was what my friends and I referred to as there's always typically one spot on a map during Battlefield 1. There wasn't always a party house, but if you did find the party house, that is where our squad stayed the entire game. Because also in Battlefield 1, if your squad leader's there, you can spawn, or you can spawn on your squad. So as long as you all stay in the house and you all don't die, you can still try to keep spawning. But essentially, we would find a house on the map, and it's best when it's on a control point. But it's even funnier when it's not, because like that happened a lot. We would pick a house that it was just kind of like in the middle of town, and we would just live in that house, and the other team cannot handle that. And the thing that I loved about Battlefield 1, and that is what really made me want to think about like a living board and about that kind of stuff, is I love that Battlefield 1 has destructible environments. That gets me so pumped. Because yeah, I'm the monster that would, like, St. Petersburg, I would just run around with limpet charges, and like I'm not playing the game. I'm just trying to reduce this entire town to a flat piece of land before the game ends. You guys do whatever you're doing, but like I'm like a deconstructionist over here. Just running around throwing limpet charges on buildings, just blowing them up, and then everyone's just like, "What are you doing? You're getting rid of all the cover." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, man." But but yeah, they're just really fun. Party house. We called it Party House because it's a joke. It's the most chaotic spot. Like essentially, it's like a certain kind of person that wants to go play in Party House, and it's just the Smash the Beatles, like where it's just you would spawn in, and it's just like as soon as you spawn in, you just try to like drop down, or you're gonna get obliterated, because literally the only thing left is the staircase, because that is the only part of the building that physically DICE, or not, yeah, I think it was DICE, they did not make that like destructible. So like we're on the stairs, or like at the very top of the stairs, like laying down, just throwing grenades and satchel charges while also throwing down ammo, and then like just enough on the point to where like you're capturing it, so then they're trying to crawl through the building to figure out where you're hiding. That's the kind of shit that I love. Same thing with Fort Vaux. Well, I think I want to say in Battlefield 1 it was called Fort de Vaux, but Fort Vaux was one of the forts along, you know, the French. Well, that's I didn't talk about that, but that's absolutely like going to be a big. I think that is one of the biggest influences going to be for my board. Is going to either be, I mean, Passchendaele, Fort Vaux, Verdun, anywhere around France. That land is just so fucking intense and horrifying looking. There's just so many settings, like so many places there that I'm like, man, that would be really fucking cool to have as like a table to play on. But yes, no, I want it to look good, but I want it to be playable more than anything. And that's something that I really am trying to think through as best as I can. Trenches are difficult, and that's so. I am going to go open up my ZM tiles so you all can kind of see them, so I can give you an example. I'll be right back. Shit. We're taking on water, Mr. Squidward. You okay, Bug? All right, I'm just gonna carry that over there. Mushroom. So I'm just gonna pull these over here right quick. Also found a binder. Yeah, water is starting to come in from that corner over there. So luckily it's all prepared for, but it's happening. Okay, so these are not painted. I have too many projects, that's why. So, but I mean, this is my project. This is going to be done. So, just hold this up so you guys can see it a little bit better. These are 3D printed ZM tiles. And then I pretty much just took a bunch of my old Cities of Death bits, like pieces, cut them up, and then fit them into sections to add detail, and then same thing with the wiring. This one has not gotten any grit or any texture yet, but I did that with a bunch of them. It was just I was in the process of doing that because at the time I've been playing a lot of Horse Heresy, because I do very much like the rules. The game, it's got a good vibe, and I love my Emperor's Children. Everybody knows that though. So I really liked the vibe that I was getting with them, and I am going to finish these because they absolutely will be used in the Flesh and Blood story that I was telling with Ed, that I will continue. Not sure when that'll be, but it will be continued. And I will keep using these. Why I brought these over here is because this is the kind of thing that you have to keep in mind when you are making tiles and when you are making terrain, which is why I wanted to show two different ways, because so in Zone Mortalis you don't always have the same size table, and that's really, I mean, you don't have to have the same size table with anything. Again, this is, when I say you don't always or you have to, I mean just like, I guess, in the standard rules. Hopefully, I think you're still able to hear me. I'll back that up. I'll back that up a bit. So with these, that's why I moved it. You have to think in mind about how they actually are going to connect when you like put them together. So these are based on not the newest Zone Mortalis like kind of layouts, but more of the original Forge World. And you can see that one's not flat because it, yeah, that's the other thing. With tiles, you have to make sure that the walls are going to meet where they're supposed to meet. And with ZM, this is okay. It's a lot easier for me because I'm such a visual person. And certain kind of things bother me that don't bother other people. I'm finicky, I'm aware. So I love how modular they are. You know, you can turn them this way, that way, but you can only have so much. You have limitations because they are set. You can't move them, but it looks good, and it's not as much stuff to have to move around, and then you can still put scatter terrain on there. The only issue is going to be like if you have scatter terrain that has a base, or if you have, depending on what the ground on here looks like, unless it's like terrain specifically like made to go with it, it might not look as seamlessly blending. And again, that's not, everybody doesn't have to have that. Like that's more of a I'm anal, and I like that kind of stuff, but I want to show both sides. I really want to, that's where I was saying with this board, I want to make my scatter terrain to be able to be used on this 4x4 that I have that's just dirt. But then I want to make a bunch of tiles. See, I guess I don't know if I even need to do the tiles, because I have a battle mat. And I'm really, what I was trying to get at with that, I'll probably use the battle mat for showing that, just because that is the quickest way. And it's I can't say for a second that for everybody, that's almost generally not a better use of time and money, would be to buy a mat that rolls out, that looks good, and then you can put your terrain on. If you're not going the route of like super detailing, just because you don't need, not you, I don't think that you don't have to have all the stuff. It's more of a, I've got a bunch of stuff. I'm thinking people would like to watch me go hog wild and making the ultimate heaven and hell fight in the trenches boards. But I also want to make a kind of board that anybody can make. And I want to show every step of the way how I do things, whether they are basic or like masterclass. Like, because I think that would be helpful for people that want to do what I like to do. But gameplay, I think, is probably the first and foremost for me, because I don't know. That's a really good question, Possum. And it's really hard. It's a difficult question because I think both. I think the best answer is both. I like aesthetics are everything for me. Like if I don't care what the game looks like, then I'm just like, I might as well color it or change, everything about it to make it look like what I do want it to look like. So the aesthetics have to look good, but also I want it to be play. Like I really love terrain that is easy to play on. So I know there's spots that are going to be all over, like boards that are hard to put models down on. I like to think about that while I'm making them. And if I can make it to where, I like to try to find both. I overanalyze things a lot. So, but these, I pretty much looked at the original Forge World Zone Mortalis layouts. And then I pretty much took graph paper, very similar to what I did with my layout of my shop. I took graph paper and I measured out everything, and I made a little version of it on paper, and I moved it around to see, where it could connect, all the different layouts that I could do, and I planned it out like that. That way it would be very smooth, and not have as many unusable combinations, because that's the thing, is like there's not all the tiles fit together to be really like, oh, that looks good, and some of them are just open. I also just have some just open tiles that are just for Typically, if I'm being honest, they're for where the middle of the board is because I'm a monster and I like to make the middle of the board in CM a kill ground. Because I think we all know what we're doing. Let's just all go to the middle. But no, at the end of the day, I love having boards that either A, are made with playability in mind, or B, playability and visual. I like a mix. I like a mix of both. I think both. I think both are needed. But you can absolutely have visually like appealing scatter terrain that just you can lay around on the table. How are you going to handle trenches? Will you build them into the boards or have them built as risers? You can move around as needed. So, good question. Thank you. Awesome. The black. So, I have foam. This is a project panel. I think I got it at Menards. You can buy them wherever. Sometimes they have that panther on them. This one does not. By the panther, I mean the pink panther. Because this is pink too. But, yeah. Sometimes they have the pink panther on a sticker, but this one didn't. But this is foam. It is insulation foam. I want to say medium density insulation. High performance XPS insulation. So I have that. Then I have this, which I, like a piece of shit, was like, I'm just going to use a hobby knife. And then I was like, that's dumb. So one of the things that I ordered last year after DevCon was this Proxon, which is a hot wire cutter. So I'm going to be using that to do a lot of the cuts, because at this point, it's just like I need to use the tool that I paid for, and I think it will be very handy for getting really tight cuts with that. So my plan is with the foam, I'm going to make essentially, get out of here. What are you doing? Essentially, I'm going to do a similar thing to like this tree, where like I have an area of trench that I'm going to cut out of here and kind of shape in. Again, this is not helpful for you all, but for me, there's a Battlefield 1 map called the River Somme, which is based on the River Somme. More importantly, the Battle of the Somme, which is one of like the scariest fucking like World War I battles for the Germans especially. That's the first one that tanks were introduced. The Somme is when the Germans were, I want to say it was 24 hours or a 48-hour barrage, but it was nonstop. Literally for, I want to say, a day or 2 days, or it might have been a day and a half, 36 hours. They literally shelled them nonstop for over a day, and then they pretty much had all of the land ships that they built pretty much fucking go over the top at once and just like start going towards the line. And the thing is, like, half of them didn't even make it across because, again, these are the very first like land ships, very first tanks. Like, they were not fully they were fully functional. It's just, again, we didn't know what the fuck we were doing, like species wise. But still, it was like the single scariest thing that like those people had ever seen, I'm sure. So yeah, Somme. The idea that I brought that up, or why I brought that up, is in the map of the Somme. You start, if you're in the tanks, you start like out in this big field. Then you go through like I think there's like a farm, and then there's a river gulch. Then you come up out of the river, and it's just a big stretch that's just zigzagged and crisscrossed by trenches. And there's like a house over here that I really like, and that has been an image that I've been thinking that I want to try to convey on this board. I love an area that is kind of raised higher, so it kind of gives you the idea of like that's going to be a high ground, but it's not the focal point. It's more of a tertiary. I love having lots of stuff being able to go on, and so like the final board will have lots of levels, but I don't want there to be parts that you can't access. So it's going to be I think maybe this. Okay, we'll stack this up. Okay, well, what if there's a whole bunch of stuff over here? Would I still be able to reach in? Because again, Trench Crusade uses true line of sight, so you actually have to like get down and be like, okay, can that guy see? So while trying to make a very, very like heavy. I want it to be absurdly heavy, like so dense. Like I want you to be like, yep, that's a fucking trench. And then wood. I also have a whole bunch of wood. So I purchased that for the. I bought a shit ton of popsicle sticks because looking into balsa wood and whatnot, I've already spent a long time. I've wanted to make a trench board for so many games, so it's just yeah. I've been wanting to do this for decades. Like one of the first games that like game boards I ever played on was at a Games Workshop in Charlotte. Technically, it's in Concord, North Carolina. But there was a Concord Mills Mall, and that is the Games Workshop that I pretty much lived in for a summer. And they had a board that they made there, and it was also they used the foam. So typically with this, I didn't explain that well at all. I'm so sorry. Typically, you would take this and you can layer it however you want, and then just cut into it. And it is very, it's pretty firm, but it's extremely lightweight, and that's what makes it really good for making terrain. Is that if you can find something to seal it and to bind it, like so, like it won't warp. That's the problem, and that's what I was getting at with this. The board is a piece of wood, and then I glued yard sale signs to it. And that is where, if you look at it from the top, it has a similar kind of issue that ZM tiles do for me, or that the other tiles, not the ZM. So ZM, because it's a grate. I loved that because you can hide the line where the tiles meet each other in the grate. Like the grating, that is, because it's a grid. Now with dirt, it's a lot more noticeable, and it can be distracting for some people. Me specifically, I get distracted when I see a line in the dirt, and I'm just like, why is that there? But unfortunately, when I put the yard sale signs on here and glued them all down, because of where the plastic and the plastic meets, there is it's not perfectly flat. So that little line creates a physical line, which means that glue or sand or anything else will accumulate in there. And then it kind of gets built up unintentionally. So then we have like a visual line, kind of like we did on the tiles, but on my board that is not made of tiles. So that is frustrating, and it's like that's one of the things that I'm going to fix when I start actually building things into the board. But I'm also trying to think of, if it's not going to leave this area though, if I just have it here to be played on, then I think that would be just fine. I don't think it would be too big to move, even when I start building on it, because I have a lot of places I could store it here. I don't have a lot, but I have some, so I'm excited about that. Yeah. I think I haven't covered these. These are some weird, they're not weird. It's Leonardo da Vinci had a bunch of little machine designs that he drew, and I found a bunch of them on clearance and picked them up because they had a lot of good little gears, and they are functional machines. This one's a clock. That one is a time waster. You put coins like this, pulls up here, and if you have a ball in here, it'll go down. Put coins in there, and essentially once this, Leonardo. This is a clock again. You got to have weights in there. And I don't even remember exactly how this worked, but I bought them with the sole intention of, oh, that's kind of fun, little Leonardo engineering designs. I love any kind of that kind of thing, but then also practicality I was very much intending to put them into a board, and those are going to fit right in, I think, with the Trench Crusade vibes. Just the very big gears. I'm going to do something with that little tube so it's not there. And then I've got a whole bunch of scatter terrain, trash, just barrels, ammo boxes, various things I've 3D printed, all kinds of piping and whatnot. the rest of my scraps and whatnot from the ruins. I didn't show you the ruins. That's all I can do. And then I think I probably will stop after this just because it's like 9:10. I'm gonna finish this coffee, maybe have some Cheerios. And then, yeah, popsicle sticks. I don't think I ever finished that thought, but looking online, between balsa wood and popsicle sticks, I think price-wise and everything else, I think popsicle sticks I was able to get at a more reasonable price, and I can just cut them very quickly, and then use those. And I think I needed so many that it was just like, I think I'm going to have to cut it no matter what. I'd rather cut the smaller thing. But I'm going to be using those extensively for like the trenches. I mainly need to figure out, and this is one of the things with figuring out gameplay wise versus like just visual. Trenches are a bitch to really think about. Fuck yeah, these are so cool. I forgot how cool this shit was. So yeah, I'm fucking stoked. Hell yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that stuff was gonna be fucking sick. Okay, so my Visterion board, what I was trying to bring, but again, I had so many things going on that I did not have the time. There's no way I would have even been able to like think that I did. That's broken. So we'll pull that up. And I'm gonna go into finishing all these, that kind of stuff. But I wanted the lower part of Visterion's like main shrine city to be this absolute hellhole. Like essentially, like when you think of like a hive world, you have the the sump, the runoff. That sounds terrible, I'm sure. So sorry. So yeah, at the very bottom, I wanted the same kind of concept for a shrine, and I called it, I want to say, the undertow, but it was essentially just a giant place in this shrine world that would flood, and also had like large deposits of, I want to say, sulfur, but essentially it was like lakes of sulfur, just chemical lakes. I wanted to have a field of corpses that were like, some Vlad the Impaler shit. So these are not able to like kind of stand up on their own because I've had to break them off of the pieces that they were on. But essentially I took a very, very, very large amount of sprues, these black and white and red ones. I'm going to get a little bit closer so you guys can see this. These black and white and red pieces of plastic. These are sprues that from Gundam, and from all the other models that I have gotten, and I like took parts and stuff from. All those sprue pieces I clipped, and I've saved a good amount. But these are just a bunch of pole sprues clipped to be used as poles, with corpses from Vistarium, the 3D prints. I took a bunch of their files and then a bunch of Lord of the Prince files, like for zombies or corpses or bodies, and pretty much glued them to these poles. And the idea is eventually, once I start finishing them, they're going to be chained or tied to these poles. So it's going to be a field of corpses. They're going to be all around here. I'm really excited about some real metal shit. These are broken off, yeah, because they were on other parts of the buildings, but because I was redoing the buildings, not all of them are still on there. Here's another example, but just very dirty, very dark. The buildings themselves that I built were a little too big, perhaps. In that, I don't know. I mean, shit, That's actually on a 4x4 board. It might be, I might have a really good amount of terrain to start just playing Trench Crusade with, because I did build a pretty gothic-y looking city. And the idea was that between these buildings on this board, I wouldn't need to make trenches because the edges are raised. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this warpath stuff off. That way I can just show you what I mean. My fingies. Okay. Warcraft, get off here. Grab all this Warcraft stuff. And then I'm just going to put my runes on here. And then I think I'm going to bounce for just a little while. And I might be back to actually start working on stuff, or I might be back just at the desk, set up to do list building. I'm not sure. I've got a lot of stuff that I need to do today. I'm trying to think of the best way to go about doing it in what order that'll be the most effective. But grab all these real quick. Alrighty. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, so Trench Crusade's also 32 millimeter. I need to measure. I'll have to bust out the old calipers. But I'm thinking, keep in mind also, so Trench Crusade is, when I say 32 millimeter, that describes the height of a human model from foot to top of head. That should be 32 millimeters. Now, here's the thing with Warhammer. Warhammer is described as 28 millimeter heroic. I mean, technically it's also, well, at least for me, with my models, all of my Primaris my Marines, like Space Marines, whether they are 30K or 40K, all of mine are 40 millimeters tall, which means that when I put someone like a Chaos Cultist or a Gene Stealer Neophyte, they look right, because those models are also 32 millimeter. They're not actually 28. So, hey, here's an example though of what I was going to talk about. So this guy, bam, that's kind of like a trench right there. So this one I actually had just to give you an idea. That one was not intentional. It was a wall with more of the grading down there. So that's where this one actually was pulled out from. I kept it like that because it was good reference to see like, oh, okay, a trench. That's how big a trench could be. I need to figure out specifically what size models I want to be able to fit in there, and then plan that. That would be the merge of gameplay, like playability, and like visual. Those are the kinds of things you really have to think about. Is you want it to look really cool, especially with your trenches, because that's like a whole thing. Like it's the Trench Crusade, so you want your trenches to be really cool. You don't want them to be too small, because then you can't actually like put models in it. But you don't want to be too big, because then it doesn't look like a trench. So that's going to be a very key part. And I want to say I already did the math kind of on it. I don't want to make so much noise. I need to figure out my lavalier mics. That's what I need to do today, honestly. I'll work on this. I'll work on my lavalier mics, figuring out how to make them work. That way I can just wear this and you all don't hear all the shit and me having to try to peek in here and look over there. But getting this set up to where you can actually watch this easily, that would be something that I need to work on today. I'm just trying to strike while the anvil's hot, and while I'm still waking up in the morning, so my brain's just like trying to, okay, this is what we're doing today. What order are we doing this? But also my brain's just like constantly trying to figure out the way to do things in different orders so I can do them at like the same time so it lines up better. But my initial plan here was, because these buildings, they're supposed to look like they were almost sunk into the earth, like they've been swallowed up by the mud. So that's why certain buildings, the relief, like this, you know, the dudes on the outside holding the sword, they're right here, but like up here, it's a different kind of wall. And that's, I was trying to show that these, if you're not seeing the dudes holding the swords, like the buildings had sank low enough that's why you're not seeing them. But the idea was, if these were actually close enough, it creates almost like a somewhat trench kind of area in between there, but they have to be pretty close. And then you get into the issue of, well, how easy would it be to move models around in there? But I'm really pleased now that I'm getting them out and looking at them again. I think I'm going to still want to file off some details to try and make them fit better. But maybe not. If anything, it might just be the Aquillas. The other stuff, I'm pretty sure I could just, I mean, skulls are just, yeah, no, I think it might just be the Aquillas. Just anything that's just blatantly Warhammer, as opposed to just grim and industrial church. But yeah, I'm pretty excited to get back to messing with these, and all these parts that have like broken off. The intention is to just straight up glue that back onto, you know, wherever, and go about the day from there, painting and whatnot. So yeah, I'm looking at this now and I'm like, that's pretty good. I think this could do pretty good. I need to get out models, and I need to get out and start measuring and seeing how well these buildings will work. Because yeah, you can't see out of those windows because they're not tall enough. But that's a really tall building, and maybe there's going to be more stuff there. So I'm going to work on that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. It's been like 2 hours. My brain's just like, bleh, and also my mouth is just dry from talking. But today I am going to focus more on pinning down exactly what I need to do for list building, what I need to do for terrain building. I want to get everything written down and actually organized. And then I think I might move it. I might start trying to move things along on the Patreon side of things, setting up how I do like voting and whatnot, because I want to know what you all want to see. So that is very important to me. I want to make what I want to make either way, but I don't think the same way everybody else does. I don't do things the same way everyone else does. So knowing what is, you know, actually something you guys want to see, that really will help me know what orders to do things in. Until then, I'm probably just going to be trying to figure out what I think is the best way to teach people, which would be showing, hey, this is a board. So this is a whole bunch of shit and like terrain on it right now, but eventually this will kind of make sense and it'll look like a setting, and we're going to play a little game on here. Showing how we get from A to B would be good. And especially, you know, I gotta paint all this stuff. I'm gonna show all that as well. So it's a long road ahead of us. This though makes me feel like I've got a much better jump on it than I thought I did. Just the fact that I have all this terrain already built. And it's very much kind of that vibe. And it's scatter terrain, so we can move it around wherever it needs to be moved. I might end up making these buildings smaller though, now that I'm like looking at them, because I wanted them to be really big. No, I'm gonna stick with what I'm doing. I wanted them to be really big because typically like church buildings are oversized. And yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I'm gonna stick with that. I can definitely make this work, I think. Yeah. Alrighty. I think I'm gonna bounce. I appreciate you all so much for sticking around and hanging out with me while I'm just talking and ranting and rambling. For sure, if there is anything that you want to see, any questions you have, anything like that, please hit me up. Uh, Comments, message me, do whatever. But I'm gonna try to pound the rest of this lukewarm, if not cold coffee. Let's see. It's just cold now, so I'm just gonna drink that and then pour the rest of it out, and then I'm gonna get at it. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this morning. I'll probably be back on later at some point today, and I can post on Instagram or I can post elsewhere about that whenever I have an idea. I just think I need to gather my thoughts alone for a minute before I move forward. I don't want to keep you guys waiting while I'm just chugging. Thank you for the long stream day. I miss you already, bud. Oh no, no problem. Thank you again. Thank you guys so much. I will see you all soon, and I'll have a much I think a better idea of like what I want to present next time. Probably later today. Maybe if not today, tomorrow. But yeah, thank you guys again. Take care. Sit pretty.